Namaskar, welcome to Inside Tonight with Ashok Vyas. And today's show is very special, as I would say, every show is special and every moment is special. And what makes every moment special is our presence, our relationship with the silence. What is silence? And why relationship with silence is important? We will learn about that in the theme currency of silence. Yes, sometimes you can add value to your silence, and how to do that or let this silence be a source of constant tension and stress, anxiety. To learn more about our relationship with silence, I have the distinct pleasure and honor of welcoming someone who is one with beautiful silence by the grace of his guru, Sri Ravi Shankar ji, and instructor of art of living, Aniket Gune ji, joins me now. Welcome, Aniket ji.
Nice
Namaste.
to see you, Ashok ji. Very nice to see you.
स्वागत है आपका. So, talk to me about how would you define silence? And as I finish my question, there are many words which tries to come, and I will respect their pressure and take 30 seconds to mention that we will talk about the philosophical aspect of silence, but also about the political aspect of silence and social aspect of silence. So, if you stay with us, you will learn how to make your silence more valuable because this is the currency of silence. So that is a marketing bit. Now continue, continue Aniket ji, with your take on what is silence, why it is important. Yes, you are with us.
Silence. Silence is. I'm just coming out of a 4-day silence retreat that the Art of Living offers. So comfortable. From the confines of from the confines of your living room, you can zoom in and see how not silent the mind is. In everyday life, there's so much happening over here in the mind that even though we are silent and we're not talking, we're not making any noise, there's so much noise happening inside of us. So the moment when you sit with yourself and you're with your thoughts, you start realizing how noisy you actually are. And then over a period of time, as you sit with the thoughts really settle down. And then what emerges is silence. And that you can feel in your presence, that you can feel even in words. You know, Gurudev says the purpose of words is to create silence. It's such a beautiful statement, but it's similar to how, let's say, a pond has a lot of waves, and over a period of time, if you leave them alone, the waves settle down. So silence is just so precious, actually, and everybody should take a little bit of time to remain silent in the day, maybe 5-10 minutes every day through meditation, breathing, or a little bit more extended periods of time where you can really detach from our phones and email and all the day-to-day responsibilities. It's a gift.
So normally many times unconsciously we connect silence by inactivity of the kind which is not productive. So our mind constantly tells us plan, have the to-do list, and what have you done, tick it, or think about how you are going to make this thing happen or that thing happen. So that is something which we feel is necessary. How do you find this in connection with silence that you just referred to?
The ideal state, again, Gurudev talks about this, is when hands are busy, hearts are full, and mind is empty. But typically what happens is our minds are full. Our work doesn't necessarily have the emotion or the devotion that it necessarily deserves. Our hands are busy on the phone. So in some ways, we've inverted the role of silence even in our waking life to get stuff done. But if you think about the best work when it gets done, or the best ideas that come, or the best creative thoughts that come, is when the mind is silent.
Absolutely. So, how to reach to that state where your mind is silent requires a lot of practice. But if you care to share to through your experience of having participated in a retreat of silence, and basically, if I bring it in connection with the computer, we say वो reboot करना है so that you shut it off. So somewhere these kind of retreats are, it's like rebooting of the whole system. Is it?
Yes, you're exactly right. I mean, we are so busy running, and over a period of time, the thoughts are running, thoughts are running, thoughts are running. Actually, thoughts are the things that are pulling you in life, right? It's almost you're running behind your own thoughts. So what happens is when you want to apply a brake to the thoughts, it takes a little bit of time for the thoughts to start settling down, slowing down. But what you realize is slowly, slowly, as you dive deeper through meditation, through the breathing, through your regular practices, the thoughts start settling down, the mind starts settling down, the body starts settling down. And then you start actually recognizing that so much of our energy is wasted in things that don't need words, right? I mean, over this weekend, my wife and I were in silence. Both of us were in silence, and we were cooking, and we didn't really need words like you chop this, you cook this, you clean that. It instantaneously, automatically happened. Where I think there's intelligence that you can tap into, which allows you to function without really the necessity of words. So, in some ways, like words are great to express and to communicate, to share, but also at the same time, they're overrated because truly your silence and your presence speaks much more than words.
So here is the thing: silence of the same person at different stages may have different frequencies that are reaching out to other people. And also, when some people are silent, you feel a sense of love around them. And while some people are silent, you feel like there is some sort of
Tension.
invisible tension, and now something would sort of attack you. Or so, talk to me about these two different shades of silence.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. I mean, the silence that you talk about, where you feel love, where you feel acceptance. I have felt that around Gurudev, and around the presence of an enlightened being. What happens is it's fascinating, the phenomenon. Like you go with so many questions, or you go with the mind so busy, but what happens in that presence is everything slows down, everything becomes silent, and you feel like a little bit of this euphoric love emerging out of that silence. But to your point, there are days when, let's say, this can happen like in everyday life, right? Like, let's say, again, with my partner, I'm feeling like some things are not necessarily going my way. I'll like sulk and brood and use silence as a weapon. I'll go into a shower, I'll have a shower, I'll come out a little bit more silent, a little less natural than what I am. But at that point of time, though I'm silent, inside I'm fuming. Inside I'm anything but silent. So,
Absolutely.
so actually,
Now
what
you're
happens?
talking. Now you're talking, because many viewers can relate to it. Like sometimes some husbands or some wives also make use of silence as a kind of weapon to inflict uh, hurt, or they feel that through their silence they are teaching something to their companion, be it husband or wife, based on their personality types. Do you agree there?
I know, I completely agree. And what is interesting to me always is whenever I like in those modes, whenever I'm silent, the mind is so active, so active. But then I have to remind myself, like let's settle down, settle down, settle down. And then slowly the mind also becomes silent. And then the words become less political, or the words become less meant to hurt, but more to bridge. So you're 100% right. Like we use silence as a weapon, we use silence as a means to cope, right? So even when somebody has gone through a big trauma or big grief, we use silence. Like there's mourn that happens, right? If a person passes away for 10 days, our tradition says just be with yourself, take the senses inward, be silent in your own experience. So silence is, to your point, multifaceted and multidimensional.
So here's the thing. Um, when we say silence, it is one word, but it might have infinite dimensions or different meanings. Uh, and then we can be creative in creating our silence. When I say in creating our silence, and then recollecting the very quoted line, silence is golden. So everybody, it is not golden by its own presence. We have to infuse that golden touch through our awareness. Or that's what you have practiced. So uh, let us learn a little bit more on inner dialogue that happens in silence, which which results into the kind of impact which it will have on others. So how to regulate your inner silence in a way that it releases radiance rather than darkness?
Whoa. The answer is really simple. For anything to become more integrated, more ingrained, you need to pay attention to it. You need to honor it. You need to be regular with it. Similar to a 401k, right? You deposit money constantly. Over a period of time, you have a lot of money in the bank when you need it. Similar, Similarly, in peace or silence, you have to make small investments every day so that over a period of time that becomes firmly rooted in us. And I would say, like a regular practice where 5 to 10 minutes every day, you close your eyes, you sit silently, even before sleeping, like you can just close your eyes, be silent with your own thoughts, think about what happened in the day, is enough to get started.
So now let us start on the practical implications of silence, and there is political silence also. And since we come from India, and you talk about meditation, and we are reminded of Himalayan yogis. So they were sitting in silence, but as a child, I used to hear that just by sitting in that cave, they are spreading love. And I used to think, how is that possible? And I thought they just say it. But now I kind of get a little bit of idea as to where they were coming from. So, as human beings, we have much more power than we ever realize, I think, somewhere. And silence enables us to tap into that source of power. So, silence and sensitivity and spiritual awareness, all these things are kind of interrelated. So, talk to us about this, and then we'll see how in our social and political life or these orbits, uh, practice of silence is helpful.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, to your point, we think that our presence or our vibrations don't have an impact. But if you think about it, if you go into a room and somebody is angry, the whole room feels angry, right? Or if you're in a meeting and somebody is tense and stressed, they're presenting, the whole room feels it. So there's something in our vibes that carries over and translates. There's a beautiful story, Ashokji. If I'll share that, I think with respect to your question about social, political, and the role of silence, and spirituality. So this is from the times of Buddha, and when Buddha started becoming popular, a lot of people went to him. They left their everyday life and said, "You know what? I want to learn and uh, just be with this enlightened master." And there was this one father whose son had left for Buddha, and he was very upset that his son had given everything up and he had left the business and gone and like become a renunciate. So one day he said, "I'm going to basically express my anger towards Buddha." And he went to the assembly, this father, and when he saw Buddha, he approached him and he spat on him. And I don't know if you know this story. It's just a beautiful story. And when he did that, everybody in the assembly was aghast, right? They expected Buddha to do something, to rebuke him, scold him, say something. But the Buddha, being Buddha, he just remained silent. He just let it pass. And everybody was stunned. What had happened? Like, here is somebody in anger doing the most harmful, insulting thing. And here is Buddha, the enlightened one, just being silent. And it was very interesting what that role of silence had on this person. So this person, after the incident, went back, and he went back to his home, and he couldn't sleep at night. And for the longest time, he couldn't sleep, and he started feeling remorse. He started feeling guilt. And the next day, he came back to the assembly, and he came back crying, and he knelt down. He touched Buddha's face, and he said, "Please forgive me. I am sorry. I shouldn't have done that. That was, please, please, please forgive me." And the Buddha said, again in silence, "No, there's nothing to forgive." And then everybody was shocked again in the assembly, like, Buddha, the all forgiving, how come he's not forgiving this person for what this person is feeling? And Buddha just said, very, very, very gracefully and effortlessly, the person yesterday is not here anymore. So whom do I forgive? I mean, it's such a beautiful story where the role of silence, the role of forgiveness, the role of the greater meaning of life all come together.
Okay, so
And
let me go to this story or the reference made here
yes,
from the point of view of critical eye. When I say critical eye, when people, let's say people like me, hear this story, they say that it is possible probably for Buddha, but it's not going to work for me. So if I'm not responding to someone who spits on me, he's going to do more harm to me. And that is how we find need, simmering need to punch the other guy. And sometimes you feel that this is necessary to survive collectively also, because there are people. See, what happens is the transformation of heart may happen, may not happen, but the
yes,
physical threat is real. Is real. So
yes, yes,
so talk to me, and I see that individual practice of becoming aware of the self and all these noble ideas, and then we come with this in the social setting, and we feel that these are real threats, and these people like Aniket or let's say Ashok Vyas who are talking about silence, they don't know. So
yes.
how do you respond to this?
Yeah, it's very true. Like, we normally confuse silence with inaction. No, but that's not the case. You can take action, and your mind can be silent. You can be internally silent. The best example for this is, as kids growing up, didn't you get scolded? Yes.
Yes.
All moms, if they have to have children who are on the right side, they have to scold the kid. And when a mother scolds a kid, she's not stressed about the scolding. She's not worked up about the scolding. The mother is silent, and yet she's stern. Actually, mothers are the best examples, right? To discipline and use silence as truly a tool to make the best of the kid happen. Because when a mother keeps silent, the kid suddenly knows, like, something is wrong over here. I need to better behave and mind myself. So the prescription is not to let anything happen, but the prescription actually in this example, and this example maybe is truly an enlightened example, right? But in our everyday life, the question to us is, can our actions be deliberate and intentional to have the right impact, but the mind being silent? Typically, what happens is, our mind is fuming, internally we are fuming, and outwardly we say, I don't think we need to act because I don't know how it will be perceived, or I don't want to hurt or come across as an angry person. So we suppress all that anger, all that stuff that is happening inside. Or sometimes we act in anger without the mind being silent, without the mind being equanimous. In those cases, typically that action does not lead to the right result. So, for the action to have the right result and the intended impact, remaining silent and coming from a space of equanimity is extremely important.
You said it so beautifully, and I'm reminded of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and there are references of how to be yogi, of course, and how to make life a yajna. And Arjun is encouraged to do his duty by fighting and not running away.
Right.
And at the same time, on that battlefield, there are detailed, step by step conversation about meditation, or I would say silence.
Yes.
So what you are saying makes sense. Yeah.
No, you're 100% right. 100% right.
So you expect someone to react, and if he or she is silent, they might have something in their system which tells them, as you were mentioning, that this silence would be in long term good. But now I take you to India, and we talk more about the sadhana part of life, but let's look at the political as well as the headlines of these days. So something comes up, one statement, there is another wave of statements, and let us begin by reference of Baba Ramdevji's statement, where he was critical of allopathic system, and then it was taken in a way whereby it has become like a tug of war as to who is superior, or who is more right than the other, something like that. As a layman, gets this impression, but there are some deeper forces in play. Not getting into all of them, your response to Indian way of responding, responding. If you are silent, then whatever they say, you just take it. That's not what Indian way is. But many times Indians interpret it that way. So your take on this?
I think communication and expression is really important. It definitely has a place in terms of eliminating a lot of potential misinformation or misunderstandings that might happen. But again, you see in news channels like heated debates that happen, and at the end of the day, like there's no value actually, because one side is going, the other side is going, and it's just noise.
Absolutely.
It's really noise, right? So I think, again, to your point, like being deliberate, being intentional in the communication, and figuring out how to bridge with that intent, I think a lot of the social noise can settle down. Also, I think the other bit is like the incentive of media is to keep the noise going, right? So every incentive in the world is towards noise, towards clickbait, towards more views, more attention. And I mean, if you fall prey to it, you get sucked into the vortex of noise.
So you need
Not
to
this
work.
show, though. Not this show. This show is all about
No,
spreading
no.
positivity and equanimity and silence and good things in life.
So, not getting into the vortex of noise, being aware that there is a pull, but you have to hold on to your ground, requires your being in tune to silence. And
Yes.
let me also bring gentlemen who get the credit for having made the world aware about yoga, its importance in terms of being someone who proposed International Day of Yoga. So I'm talking about Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and he has also practiced yoga. So now, Aniketji, when he remains silent on some key issues, people interpret it as his weakness. Either way, we may refer to the person Narendra Modi, but in general, many times when you are silent and people expect you to respond, react, and you choose to remain silent, it could be a sign of strength, it could be a sign of weakness. And if you leave your diplomatic guards, how do you interpret the silence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi at certain times, especially what happened in Bengal? And there are a number of issues where people feel that he should have been more vocal.
I'm not a political expert, Ashokji, you know that. Uh, but I can definitely say a sign of intelligence is knowing when to remain silent and when to channelize that silence into expression, right? So again, I'm no judge of how he is or what's the right balance over there, but I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that is a good point to leave. Uh, and everyone can only understand the significance of his silence. But to practice silence is not an easy thing, especially when when you're in a position of power. You can have access to media and everything, but the same now I bring back to individuals. And in office setting also, sometimes you are fuming because your colleague or your superior or your subordinate acted in a way which causes inner restlessness. And so the the common phrase is, I have to settle the score. So you feel some edginess inside. It could be in the social setting, it could be in the work setting, etc. Uh, so bring back your recent experience of being a part of silent retreat, and what is your advice?
I the settling scores is a very short term outlook. But if you look at the expanse of time, if you look at even careers, like long careers, they're decades, they're not weeks. Like scores are settled in days and weeks and months. Careers are made over years and decades. And what I've seen, practically speaking, is what goes around comes around. Uh, and intent and integrity are so vital in creating a long term healthy career, a long term healthy brand and reputation. But if you even stretch it even further, I mean, Mahadev is like the is the true cause of all causes, who's keeping all the scores and having people dance to his tunes. So, in moments of deep silence and deep reflection, what you start recognizing is there is actually a divine play that is happening, and all you have to do is express yourself in that play. And settling score seems so trite at that point of time. So letting go seems like the smarter move. And finally, we have to leave the body. So, what are some few scores?
I think that's very profound way of looking at life and looking at who we are, uh, and coming back to silence. So if we do not practice silence, we cannot appreciate ourself or true self. And in that connection, in 1 minute, if you care to share some beautiful inspiration that you became aware of because you were practicing silence, and or a different creative insight which was unfolded in silence for you, anything.
Beautiful. I'll share two things. One thing that truly kind of came forth was to keep the child in me alive. And as grown-ups, we go about our life and we get very serious and very goal-oriented. But keeping that child inside alive. So I'll be starting a class for kids where we'll discuss God, physics, and a lot of fun. Uh, and then the second thing I'll share is, again, Gurudev is such a inspiration over here. But I mean, Gurudev, the only thing that he's communicating or trying to share is opening up a vision towards a new dimension. And there was this one piece that I heard in the program, which was, life is magnanimous. And you think life is constricted to time and space, but if you can think about life as eternal, beyond time, beyond space, beyond the material, beyond the body, something in you shifts and opens up to a new dimension.
Beautiful.
And
So, yeah. So sorry,
yes,
Aniket. Yeah. No. So time tells us that we should embrace the beauty of silence, and we should express our gratefulness to you for making us aware of the strength that lies in being silent, as well as many multi-layered ways in which one can interpret one silence. But silence opens the door for that creativity which makes life meaningful. And you have added value to our silence, Aniket. Thank you very much.
thank
Uh,
you for having me.
so as I thank Aniket Guneji, I pray for beautiful silence in our lives rather. So thanks for being a part of Insight Train. This is Ashok. Namaste.